On this Sunday night, the eyes of the world turn to Canada. The G7 summit kicks off in the Rockies with leaders facing tensions on tariffs, defense, and de-escalation in the Middle East.
This is the foundation of prosperity for all our citizens.
Widening manhunt. Police broaden the search for the man accused of murdering a state legislator and targeting dozens more. Conflict intensifies. Israeli cities under fire as missiles rain down on Iranian oil infrastructure. Plus, extraordinary double milestone. The zoo tortoise who just became a dad for the first time on Father's Day and his 135th birthday. How it's a symbol of hope for the species.
Global National, reporting tonight. Nitu Karcha.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. World leaders are converging on Kananaskis, nestled in the foothills of the Canadian Rockies today, ahead of the start of the annual G7 meetings tomorrow. And Prime Minister Mark Carney wasted no time rolling out the red carpet, welcoming UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer to Parliament Hill today, talking bilateral ties, before jetting off to Alberta for 3 days of high-stakes discussions about the economy, tariffs and trade, as well as the push for peace in both Ukraine and the Middle East.
On a personal level, I've learned a lot from the Prime Minister over the years. I've been a great admirer of his and the values that he's bringing to bear to his government and to internationally, particularly as we go to Kananaskis for the G7.
Obviously, the conflict with Israel and Iran is centerpiece, and this provides the opportunity to talk to our co-leaders about the fast-moving situation and to make our strong case together that there must be de-escalation.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese have touched down in Alberta. U.S. President Donald Trump has now departed Washington. He will also have a face-to-face meeting with Prime Minister Carney tomorrow morning. David Akin is traveling with the Prime Minister and joins me now. David, we've seen how discussions with President Trump can derail quickly. How critical is it for Carney to avert a diplomatic disaster in the days ahead?
Well, Neetu, Canada's most important relationship in the whole world, of course, is with the United States. And so even though Prime Minister Mark Carney is hosting a summit of world leaders, the next 3 days are all about managing one leader, Donald Trump.
He is chaotic. He will jump from topic to topic. Frankly, he can become distracted by something that comes up quickly.
Brian Clough spent much of the last decade in Justin Trudeau's office as his advisor on Canada-U.S. relations. He was there during Trump's first term.
And so the advice that I would give to my former boss and to any leader and to the new Prime Minister is you've got to go in with a plan.
Carney's plan has been to show the U.S. and Trump that Canada is doing more on defense, on fentanyl, on immigration, and on China.
We can deal with some of the non-market practices of China dumping products in the North American economy. Those are the things we can do with the Americans, but not at the same time as they're hammering our economy with these punitive tariffs.
Clough believes it will be difficult to get Trump to move off his tariff policy.
Donald Trump has clearly stated over and over, and his team has stated that they like tariffs and they don't want to remove them.
The state of the global economy is the first order of business on the summit agenda Monday morning, and all leaders are opposed to Trump's tariffs. The trick will be how do they broach that topic without seeming like they are ganging up on the U.S. president. In any event, Canada has already signaled that if the U.S. does not relent, it can expect higher retaliatory tariffs from Canada. And Carney will make sure Trump knows that that will have to be Canada's response.
There's a limited amount of patience that the government and Canadian businesses and workers are prepared to show. So the government will have to come to that conclusion over the next little while.
Now, Trump and Carney are going to have their one-on-one meeting first thing on Monday morning. They'll have it even before the summit gets going. And it's there that Carney is going to have to start to assess, is Donald Trump ready to do a deal, or is it time for Carney to think about a different approach? Neetu.
Okay, David Akin, thanks. Some of the most pristine parts of Canada are in that small pocket of Alberta. Journalists from around the world have assembled in the popular tourist town of Banff, about 80 kilometers from where those G7 leaders are meeting in Kananaskis this week. Our Heather Yurex West is one of them. And Heather, the influx will no doubt keep local businesses busy, but security is paramount.
Neetu, this beautiful Rocky Mountain destination attracts millions of visitors each year, with many of them coming during the summer months. That's why hosting a secure and complex event like this one is such a massive undertaking, with significant impacts to not only local businesses, but area wildlife as well.
With news cameras from every G7 nation now pointed at Alberta, the local tourism industry is hoping to shine. Banff may already be an international travel destination, but Kananaskis and Canmore are not quite as well known.
What we are hoping for is more brand recognition in our target markets of the G7 of UK, Germany, France and the US.
Businesses across the region are hoping for a boost, though for security purposes, some operating closest to the summit have had to spend some time in the lead up to the event shut down.
We closed on June 10th when the controlled access zone went into place. So that's from June 10th to June 18th. So during that time, we're closed to the public.
A number of campgrounds and hiking trails have also been closed as an integrated security team led by the RCMP worked to keep the G7 leaders and their delegations safe.
It's been a lot of planning over the last several months to have an event that's going to unroll in a way that is efficient and is safe and secure for everyone.
Which includes making sure things are safe for area wildlife, especially local bears. Last month, volunteers removed buffalo berry bushes around the village in an effort to keep the bears away. Electric fencing has also been installed. Designated protest zones like this one in Calgary will also see a police presence. Not everyone happy with the invited guests. A petition to keep Donald Trump from attending the summit collected 70,000 signatures online.
I'm actually really happy with how many people have signed the petition, so I'm not alone in feeling this way and wanting our voice to be heard.
Hosting this summit in the forest means that organizers also had to plan for potential wildfires. And while there is an emergency plan in place, this part of the province has not been as hot and dry as other areas of the prairies. And so the risk of wildfires here right now is low. Neetu?
Heather Yurex West in Banff, Alberta. Thanks. And you can watch Global National's special coverage of the G7 summit with Donna Friesen in Kananaskis tomorrow and on Tuesday night. Israel's ambassador to Canada wants G7 leaders to coordinate pressure on Iran and prevent further escalation as both countries exchange fire. He believes Israel was forced to act on Friday as Iran made progress towards creating nuclear weapons and expanded its arsenal of ballistic missiles.
We hope that the G7 countries will see that the threat emanating from Iran requires global action. It is, for us, the 11th hour.
Those calls come as both Israel and Iran intensify strikes against each other, putting the entire Middle East region on edge. Vincent McAvinney reports on the damage being inflicted and the calls for an immediate de-escalation.
Iran's response on the third night of this conflict. Another wave of missiles lit up Israeli skies as millions below sheltered in bunkers. You can see their sophisticated Iron Dome defense system intercepting most of the incoming fire. But its misses were devastating, with buildings and homes damaged across this country, killing and injuring dozens. An Iranian missile hit this house in Tamra, a mostly Palestinian town in the north. 4 women and children from the same family were killed. Touring the damage, Israel's Prime Minister said it was evidence Iran must not be able to develop nuclear weapons.
Our pilots are over the Iranian skies. Iran will pay a heavy price for the killing of civilians, women, children that they did intentionally. We will both achieve our goals and strike them.
Israel continued to attack Iran's nuclear facilities and for the first time an oil and gas refinery.
We didn't want this war. We were focused on implementing diplomacy regarding our nuclear program. However, this violation was forced upon us. We will defend ourselves, and this defense is completely legitimate and strong.
Leaders around the world, including US President Donald Trump, have called for calm. Iran and Israel should make a deal. We will have peace soon, Many calls and meetings now taking place. Despite Benjamin Netanyahu's unpopularity, Israelis seem largely supportive of his offensive gamble.
Stay strong and keep going. We don't have a choice. It's better this way than have missiles come at us, nuclear missiles, and then we're all dead.
I have no questions about what we're doing. The Iranians have wanted to destroy us for a long, long time.
Tonight, Iranian rockets have again tried to penetrate defences over Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. Some 40,000 tourists are currently stuck in Israel, with Canada, the UK and others advising against all travel to the country. An indication that this conflict is expected to go on for some time, with it now taking top priority for G7 leaders gathering in Alberta over the coming days. Nitu?
All right, Vincent McAvinney in London. Thanks. The Israeli army's relentless assault in Gaza is not showing signs of letting up, even as the new Iranian front opens up. The Hamas-run health ministry says at least 41 Palestinians were killed by Israeli airstrikes overnight and into today. Medics at Al-Auda hospital say at least 5 civilians have died as they waited for aid near 2 facilities run by the U.S. and Israeli-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Police extended the manhunt in Minnesota over state lines into South Dakota for the man suspected of assassinating a Democratic state lawmaker and her husband while trying to kill a second state representative. The attacks happened in their homes and are being condemned as an act of politically motivated violence. Candice Cole looks at the latest on the search for the killer.
Sunday marks day 2 of a massive manhunt in Minnesota for this man, 57-year-old Vance Luther Belter, who authorities say wore a mask and posed as a police officer when he allegedly shot 2 Democratic Minnesota state lawmakers, killing former Minnesota House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband, and critically injuring State Senator John Hoffman and his wife early Saturday morning. The search now expanding to neighboring South Dakota.
Clearly, this is politically motivated.
As mourners pay their respects, Belter remains on the run. Police say he fired at officers as he fled Hortman's house on foot, leaving behind an SUV that resembles a police vehicle. Inside, police found a manifesto with a list of 70 potential targets.
And there clearly was some through line with abortion. They're also checking out, did he have interaction somehow with these 2 legislators? Is there more to this?
Just hours after the shooting, surveillance footage showed Belter wearing a cowboy hat and carrying a dark-colored bag. That hat could be the same one found at the location where police found a second vehicle belonging to him in Sibley County, nearly 100 kilometers from where the shootings took place and where Belter has an address.
Kind of hard to believe that the guy might be living out in my neighborhood.
Neighbors have been alerted to secure themselves and remain vigilant as law enforcement searches properties. Belter lives part-time at a residence in North Minneapolis, where his roommate and best friend shared the last text message he received from Belter.
So I just want to let you know that I love you guys both, and I wish it hadn't gone this way. I don't want to say anything more and implicate you in any way.
Belter was known in local political circles, having twice been appointed to the governor's Workforce Development Commission. There is now a $50,000 reward being offered for information on him, leading to an arrest and conviction. Candice Cole, Global News, Washington.
In India, funerals have now commenced for some of the victims of last week's deadly Air India plane crash. Families are performing their last rites for their loved ones as work to identify the remaining bodies from the tragedy continues. Around 270 people died in the crash. About 30 were on the ground when the Boeing 787 Dreamliner plummeted from the sky moments after takeoff. Officials from Boeing and U.S. transportation agencies have now visited the crash site as they continue their investigation. Skilled but stuck at the border. Coming up, the push to end provincial barriers for workers as small business owners struggle to fill jobs. Politicians of all stripes in this country are trying to work together to bring down interprovincial trade barriers. While progress is being made on that front, there's also a separate push to remove hurdles hampering labor mobility between provinces. As Ann Gaviola explains, small businesses say they're desperate for help with hiring.
When you call a plumber, it's usually something that can't wait.
The worst thing in the world is to have to say no to people.
But Grey Bruce Plumbing, northwest of Toronto, has been forced to say no because they don't have enough licensed plumbers on staff to meet demand. They need people who meet Ontario's lofty work requirements, which takes time and money. It's a 5-year process to certification involving 9,000 hours, pairing one trainee with one licensed plumber.
There's no shortage of first-year apprentices right now because the government's pumping them through these pre-apprenticeship programs pretty heavily, but it doesn't help because we don't have the skilled journeymen up here to match them up with.
Grey Bruce Plumbing would like to be able to hire from outside the province without the hassle of internal barriers. Harmonizing rules that currently vary from province to province could unlock as much as $200 billion worth of lost productivity, a problem that has long plagued this nation.
Make sure that we're not only strengthening Canada's economic competitiveness, but we're also helping businesses grow.
The Canadian Federation of Independent Business says for the first time in a long time, there's progress on the interprovincial barrier front. On June 6th, the federal government tabled legislation to reduce internal barriers to ease labor mobility, among other things. Now, it includes a framework for recognizing licenses and certifications that vary from one part of the country to another. And the pressure is on to advance C5, known as the One Canadian Economy Bill, before the House of Commons summer break, which is in less than 2 weeks. Prime Minister Mark Carney says if Parliament needs to sit longer to get it passed, then it should. Neetu?
Ann Gaviola in Toronto. Thanks. Giving strangers a dignified farewell ahead, the efforts to find a final resting place for deceased Newfoundlanders left unclaimed for years. In Newfoundland and Labrador, there's been an uptick in deceased residents who've not been claimed for burial, and their remains have been left in a hospital storage for several years. It's a growing problem across Canada. Heidi Petracek explains how locals are now stepping in to help.
In the tight-knit rural community of Harbour Grace in Newfoundland and Labrador, pub owner Gordon French knows most of the folks around, including Rendell Crane.
He'd be a guy who'd drop in just for a chit-chat.
Crane died in 2023, but French had no idea his former customer was never buried until he saw the 72-year-old's name on a list published by the Provincial Health Authority of 26 people, all over the age of 60, who died with no one to claim them, their bodies then left in storage.
It hit me in the heart. I just posted on Facebook on my business page that Randall is in St. John's and we should find a way to get him home.
A lot of people came forward that we couldn't find previously.
Provincial legislation was changed this year to allow Newfoundland and Labrador Health Services to bury individuals after searching for next of kin for 2 weeks and then publishing outstanding cases online for 5 days.
We're responsible for the burial or cremation, and we're also responsible for, having a permanent marker for these people as well.
Funeral professionals say there are several reasons this is happening. People left unclaimed may have no fixed address, be estranged, or have no immediate family left. And in some cases, they say next of kin just can't afford burial or cremation.
The fact that they're unclaimed is a societal issue.
In Ontario, cases have gone from less than 200 in 2006 to more than 1,400 last year, amplifying calls to increase the federal death benefit, which maxes out at $5,000 depending on eligibility.
We need consistent public funding across provinces to ensure that every Canadian receives a dignified disposition, regardless of their circumstances.
In BC, changes are in the works to also allow people outside of family to make final arrangements.
Because oftentimes there's a family friend, a long-term neighbor, or there's someone who would like to take care of the affairs for that individual.
It needs to be done. It's getting done.
Back in Harbour Grace, community efforts mean Rendell Crane will make it to his final resting place soon. And Gordon French plans to help do the same for others. Heidi Petracek, Global News, Halifax.
A late-in-life surprise for a 135-year-old giant. Next, the zoo tortoise who just became a dad for the first time and why his hatchling is such a big deal. A universal salute recognized around the globe but rarely seen between world leaders. Prime Minister Mark Carney and the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Keir Starmer, enjoyed a beer at an Ottawa pub Saturday while taking in Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Finals between the Edmonton Oilers and Florida Panthers. Dads and dad figures are being honored around the world for Father's Day today, including a South Florida zoo's oldest resident. This is Goliath, the Galapagos tortoise, and this month he's celebrating both his 135th birthday and his first Father's Day. Goliath hatched in Ecuador's Galapagos Islands sometime between 1885 and 1890. He's bred with several different females during his time at zoos in New York and Miami, but had never successfully fathered an offspring until earlier this month. Officials say both parents and the hatchling appear to be healthy. And that is Global National for this Sunday night. I'm Neetu Garsha. Tonight's Your Canada are the Canadian and Alberta flags in the mountains of Kananaskis, Alberta, where some of the most powerful leaders are gathering for this week's G7 summit. Thanks for watching. Donna will be back with you tomorrow with a special edition of Global National from Banff, Alberta. That's for the G7 meeting. Have a great night.